Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. With all the big stuff going on in the world right now, it's easy to overlook smaller threats that have always been there. While things like EMPs or World War III are a lot more scary, natural disasters happen every year and they affect millions of lives. Being the middle of August, we're about to enter the worst part of hurricane season, but even if you don't live along a coast, there are plenty of other things nature could throw at you. I, for example, live in Tornado Alley, so spring and the first part of summer are always stressful for us. Then, in a couple of months, a lot of folks will begin to experience severe winter weather in the form of blizzards and ice storms. Bottom line is that natural disasters are very common, but people always seem shocked when they happen. So today we're going to talk about the most important things to have during and after these kinds of events. And one of the most important things to have for any disaster is food and water. However, when dealing with weather events, your priorities when it comes to this should be a little bit different. During the middle of a storm, cooking outside probably wouldn't be a good idea. Maybe a hurricane is blowing limbs and a lot of other debris all over the place, or a blizzard just has you snowed in. So when it comes to your food supply for these kinds of events, you need to have things that are easy to prepare or can be eaten straight out of the package. Even though they don't have as long of a shelf life as other storage foods, things like crackers and peanut butter are nice since they'll store for a little while and can be eaten as is. Then dehydrated fruits and trail mix are similar. I wouldn't try to store them for years at a time, but if you can rotate them out every 3 to 6 months, they would be very good to have on hand. Canned goods also work well for storm prep since they're all technically safe to eat straight out of the can, but if you want to heat them up, you won't need a whole lot of fuel to do that. And although I wouldn't recommend these for long-term storage, microwavable cups of rice can be dumped out into a pot and reheated on a cook stove rather than in a microwave. Using those would require a lot less time and fuel than boiling water to cook dry rice since all that's already been done. Then freeze-dried foods are another good option, although they do require water to prepare. Mountain House is a good choice if you want complete entrees. If you like steak, Prepper Beef has several cuts to choose from, including ribeye and filet mignon. I found that they work best mixed with other foods. Like here, I have some of their steak mixed in with some canned rotel and the microwavable rice that I mentioned earlier. Nutrient Survival is another option, and what makes them different from others is that their food is fortified with additional vitamins and nutrients. Then, in addition to having easy to prepare foods, it's also important to have ways to do small cooking tasks indoors. Butane stoves, as most of you know, are my favorite option for this since they can produce a lot of heat and they're large enough to hold a full-size pot or skillet safely. Alcohol stoves can also work, but you'll be limited as to how much you can cook or boil at one time, and you'll also need a way to support a container above it. Regardless, though, of the method that you choose, be sure to have plenty of fuel set aside. At a minimum, try to have at least enough to get you through at least a few weeks. When it comes to water, a rainwater harvesting system would be very useful, especially during something like a hurricane that has a ton of rain, but you should always have water stored inside of your home as well. Having a few larger packages of bottled water isn't a bad idea, but the majority of my family's water storage is held in portable containers like aquatainers, water bricks, or military water cans. You can also get bathtub water bladders like the Aquapod or Water Bob that'll give you a last-ditch way to store a large amount of water in a clean container. The Aquapod can keep water safe for up to 8 weeks, and that should be long enough to get you through most weather events. Then other last-ditch water storage methods include collapsible water containers, large cooking pots, and even clean food-grade buckets. Filling those up with water is a really good way to substantially increase your water reserves if you know that something bad is headed your way. There's just no reason not to do that. Next thing that you'll need after a disaster is a backup power source. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards can all wreak havoc on our power grid by knocking down power lines and damaging other vital pieces of equipment. Shortly after the 2021 Texas ice storm, I picked up a traditional gas generator for my family, but it always bothered me that once we ran out of fuel, I knew that we would lose our power supply. However, over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to test and use various solar power options, including some larger ones that can power your entire home. These have the advantage of being able to use a natural power source which can reduce or eliminate your dependence on man-made fuel sources. Right now, my family is using the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3 for our home's emergency backup power, and I've also used the Delta Pro Ultra as well. Both these are excellent whole home power solutions, but before we go any further, I would like to thank EcoFlow for sponsoring us today. Both the Delta Pro 3 and Delta Pro Ultra can serve as backup power systems for your home, and when they're used with EcoFlow's Smart Home Panel 2, they can do this automatically. When the power goes out, the panel will automatically switch over to battery power without you even having to lift a finger. Then they even have an EPS mode which, when activated, will perform the switchover in less than 20 milliseconds. During my testing, that was fast enough to prevent my wireless router from resetting. It's literally blink and you miss it. I like this because if the power goes out when I'm at work or on a trip, my wife won't have to do anything to get the power up and running again. Then, since the battery and inlet are housed inside my home, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing outside. It's not like a traditional gas generator that has to be set up outside, which may not be possible if things get bad enough. Now, you can also use the Delta Pro 3 and Delta Pro Ultra with standard transfer switches using the 30 amp 120 volt RV outlet or L14-30 outlet, both of which are present on both devices. Being able to do this is nice since you're not forced to use the Smart Home Panel 2, and it also allows them to be used at family members or friends' houses who just have a regular transfer switch. That's the case with my parents. If they lose power, I can just run one of my systems over to their house and plug it in. Another advantage that both the Delta Pro 3 and Delta Pro Ultra share is that they have lithium iron phosphate batteries, both of which can handle regular use for around a decade before they degrade to 80% of their original capacity. You can also use both systems in conjunction with the EcoFlow app to help you save money on your electric bill by using solar panels or just by using your batteries during the most expensive times of day if you have that sort of variable energy plan. The biggest differences between the two systems, though, is capacity and expandability. The Delta Pro 3 by itself has a capacity of 4 kilowatt hours and can handle up to 2 additional batteries for an overall capacity of 12 kilowatt hours, and it can support up to 4,000 watts of output. The Delta Pro Ultra, on the other hand, has a starting capacity of 6 kilowatt hours that can be expanded to 30 per each inverter, and it can handle up to 7,200 running watts. So, just based on their capacity limits, the Delta Pro 3 can keep your home running for around 1 to 3 days, while the Delta Pro Ultra should be able to do that for 3 to 5. Of course, this is going to depend on how much you've expanded your system, if any, and also on what you're trying to run. I personally try to conserve power during outages by doing things like using fans instead of my air conditioner and camp stoves instead of my stovetop, because you just never know how long things could last, and I would rather give myself some wiggle room, even if I do have a very large, very capable system. Then when it comes to solar input, the Delta Pro Ultra can handle a lot more there as well. The Delta Pro 3 can handle up to 2,600 watts of solar input, while the Delta Pro Ultra can handle up to 5,600. This is a big advantage if you have a roof-mounted solar panel array, since you could probably use those to stay running indefinitely, especially if you limit your use of more power-hungry appliances. However, both models can be used with portable solar panels or can be recharged using a fuel-based generator. I feel that the biggest advantages that the Delta Pro 3 has over the Ultra, though, is price and portability. Even though it does have wheels, the Delta Pro Ultra has a larger footprint and it's also heavier. So if you're wanting a whole home system you could still take with you if you needed to bug out, then the Delta Pro 3 is probably a better option. However, if you're on a budget, then there's nothing wrong with the original Delta Pro. It has a lot of capability, and its price has dropped drastically over the past year or so. Now, if you think that you may want to pick up a backup power source, EcoFlow is running a hurricane season promotion where you can get some pretty good deals, and if you use my links in the description below and this code, then you can get an additional 5% off. You can see more details about all that in the description. The next thing to think about when it comes to natural disasters is how you're going to keep your home at a manageable temperature after everything's over. For things like hurricanes, you'll probably be dealing with high temperatures and also high humidity. Having fans can help with this, along with other things like loose-fitting, lightly colored clothing. Then be sure to have more water than you think you'll need because you're going to lose a lot of water through sweat. You may also want to consider having some sort of electrolyte replacement as well. If you have a backup power source, you could use a 12-volt refrigerator to freeze ice packs or damp rags to help you stay cooler. One thing, though, that a lot of people overlook is pesticides. These would be particularly important after a hurricane since populations of mosquitoes and other insects are going to skyrocket. Heavy rains and flooding will create ideal breeding grounds for them for weeks after the storm is over. Thin screens on windows and even mosquito netting could allow you to ventilate your home while reducing the number of insects that find their way inside. For cold weather power outages, be sure to have a reliable backup heating method. A wood-burning fireplace is one of the best things that you can have for this, but portable fuel-based space heaters like buddy heaters are good also. The end of summer is actually a really good time to pick those up because very few people are thinking about them right now. But in a few months, when winter weather starts to blow in, they're going to get a lot harder to find. Then sleeping bags and blankets would be useful as well, along with dedicated cold weather clothing like wool gloves, socks, and hats. Then don't forget other preparedness basics like LED lighting and medications. Medications in particular will be highly sought after. Pain relievers and fever reducers along with stomach medications will always be in demand, but if you're dealing with a winter storm, cold and flu meds could vanish as well. So be sure to have a good supply of these ahead of time. And y'all, there's a lot of other basic preps you should have for storms or pretty much any other situation you could deal with. You can see more of those in my ultimate stockpile checklist. It's free for anyone who signs up for my newsletter, and you can do that using the link in the description below. Another important thing to consider when it comes to natural disasters is dealing with damage to your home. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and even severe thunderstorms can knock out windows and punch big holes in roofs, and being able to deal with those situations can prevent your home from suffering more damage after the fact. Plywood and lumber are some of the most useful things for this, but since they're scooped up quickly before major storms, it's a good idea to get them before you need them. Another advantage of doing this is that you can cut them to the proper size ahead of time. This will make installing everything a lot faster, which could allow you to beat the crowd out of town if you need to evacuate. Of course, you will need to figure out how you're going to store all this so it's out of the way, but still accessible when you need it, but I think it's worth it. Tarps are another good thing to have since they can be used to temporarily patch a damaged roof or busted window. Then also don't forget fasteners. Screws are easier to use, but keep in mind that they don't hold up well to shear forces, so because of this, you may want to have nails on hand as well. Another thing you'll need to protect your home is tools, and I prefer a healthy mix of power tools and hand tools. For power tools, I generally prefer cordless variants since they can be charged ahead of time and allow you to get at least some work done even if the power's out when you need them. Then their batteries can be recharged using pretty much any solar generator, including smaller ones that wouldn't be able to run corded tools like circular saws. Having a cordless drill, impact driver, circular saw, and reciprocating saw will allow you to do pretty much any building or demo tasks that you may need to do in the aftermath of a storm. Then, of course, be sure to have basic hand tools like hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches, along with hand saws and hacksaws in case you need to do more cutting after your power tool batteries run out of juice. Then don't forget a utility shutoff tool. If your home is damaged, you may have water or gas leaks, and being able to shut those off could prevent even worse damage. Another important part of storm preparedness that a lot of people overlook is protecting their vehicle, because if you need to leave, the last thing that you want to do is to get stranded on your way out of town. Doing simple things like keeping up with your tires, your oil changes, and other basic maintenance tasks is going to go a long way towards this. Then don't forget to store extra fuel for your vehicle and keep it rotated. A good way to do this is to use your fuel storage in your lawnmower during the spring and summer, dump what's left in your car, and then fill it up again at the end of fall. But of course, the more fuel that you store, the more effort you're going to need to put into rotating it. Another important thing to have is a battery jump pack. These will allow you to start your car without any outside help, but it's still a good idea to go ahead and have some jumper cables in your car as well. I mean, they're just cheap insurance to make sure that you can get yourself and your loved ones to safety. Then also check your vehicle to make sure that it has a spare tire. Not all vehicles are sold with one nowadays, and you don't want to discover that on the day that you have a flat. And if you do have one, make sure it has air in it. Then, along those same lines, you should also know what situations would require you to leave, along with when you're better off just sheltering in place. Wildfires are an example of a natural disaster that would probably require you to bug out, along with a hurricane if you're in the storm surge area or along the potential path of the hurricane's eye wall. So always do your best to stay up to date on what the storm's doing and what it's expected to do next. If there's a chance you may need to evacuate, go ahead and figure out what you'll do now before a storm is on its way, because refugee camps tend to be pretty horrible, and you're a lot less likely to end up at one if you've made arrangements with someone outside the danger zone and you have enough fuel to get you there. Also, be aware of alternate routes out of town in case traffic or other circumstances cause your primary routes to be impassable or just more trouble than they're worth. Now, of course, there's a lot more to storm preparedness than what we've talked about today. So, if you want to see what you need to bug in during a storm, then click here. Or if you want to learn about what you need when bugging out, then click here. Once again, I'd like to thank EcoFlow for sponsoring us today. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.